when you gave your forensic interview, by that time you didn't know you were pregnant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you gave your forensic interview in June of 2021, is that right? Yeah.
No.
That's not wrong. But it's in the summertime, after your 8th grade year, before your 9th grade year, that you're pregnant with your first child. Is that right?
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that, how long have you, well, you mentioned that Isaiah knew about, I guess, this whole thing about prostitution and you being sold. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you start dating Isaiah?
When I was 15.
Okay. And do you remember what month it was?
Mm-hmm.
How many months was it before you told him about this, your situation with prostitution?
He was ready to work.
So you told him after 2 weeks of knowing him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you mentioned that he was the first adult that you told. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you start talking to him when you're 15, and 2 weeks after you date him, he's the first adult that you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Who are all the people that you told about Karen allegedly prostituting?
My brother.
When did you tell your brother? And which first, before you answer that, which brother are you referring to? Did you tell Isaac?
I remember. No.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
When did you first tell Jeff?
The first time when it happened was
So at that time, you're saying, when it first happened with MF, is that when you were living at your father's house?
Mm-hmm.
So you told Jeffrey when you were living at your father's house. Where were you when you told Jeffrey?
In my room.
In your room at your father's house?
Mm-hmm.
Who else did you tell?
Carla, you know about it?
Did you and Carla talk about it?
Not really.
Okay, so you never mentioned to Carla that her mom was prostitute?
Mm-hmm.
You're just aware that Carla knew.
Mm-hmm.
Who else knew? Oh, who else did you tell?
No one else. No one else.
So it's only Jeffrey and Isaiah that you told.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Isaiah, did you start dating him when you were at your mom's house or your father's house?
My head definitely back with my mom. So what's my mom?
So you started dating the first adult that you told when you were 15 at your mother's house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, how long had you moved away from your father's house when you had the forensic interview pertaining to Karen allegedly prostituting?
Okay.
Okay. But do you think that you had been already living at your mother's house a few months?
Maybe. No.
So yesterday, your testimony was, at some point in time, you told Karen you didn't want a prostitute anymore because she wouldn't allow her daughters to do the same thing. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. But I thought you said you were done with allowing Karen to prostitute you when you all had a conversation where she said she wouldn't prostitute her daughter. She wouldn't allow them to do the same thing. Is that incorrect?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So, and then after that situation, you stopped prostituting, correct? After you had the conversation with Karen.
Yes.
Okay. And then that same conversation where she said, I'm not going to let my daughters do it, is that you also moved back in with your mom at that point. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
About how long, was it the next day or how long after? Prior to that conversation, when was the last time Karen had allegedly prostituted? Sure. You and Karen had this conversation. She says, I wouldn't let my daughters prostitute themselves. Prior to that conversation, when was the last time that Karen prostituted? Karen told you to have sex with somebody from life.
I was 2 weeks with Isaiah.
When you were 2 weeks with Isaiah, that was the last time you prostituted yourself?
No, that's the last time she asked.
Right. So not when she asked. When was the last time that it was actually done? Does that make sense? Or do you want me to rephrase it? It makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. So prior to that conversation, when was the last time?
When?
When?
I don't know the time.
You remember a lot of details as far as car rides, the money, the exchange, whether you got it before or after. I need you to tell me, is there anything that helps you remember the time frame when any of these things happen? Easter, Christmas, celebration.
I don't remember.
So you just know that these are just random times. Is that right?
Okay.
So when these things are happening, I'm trying to narrow it down, is what I'm trying to do. Do you understand that to a time frame?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I'm asking you is when you have situations like this, and it's a different question than what I said before. I mean, were you at your father's house for like a long period of time and these things would happen? Or would you just be visiting for like a week and these things would happen?
No, I was staying with him.
Because you remember there's a lot of conversation about you going back and forth between your mom's house and your dad's house. Do you recall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so at some point we know that I guess when you were in the 6th grade, you said it was about 2 months, and we figured it was right after, I guess, I think that was spring break or something. You said 2 months you were with your dad, and then you went back with your mom, and then it was a back and forth situation. Do you recall us talking about that?
No, I left the 2 months of school with my mom.
Okay. What is the longest time, consistent time period without going back and forth that you lived with your father?
I don't know
No, that's fine. But I mean, okay, you know for sure, and you can say I lived with my dad for a week. I know for sure it was 3 months and I consistently lived with my dad. Or I know for sure it was the entire semester or 6 months.
Well, it was for a couple of months.
So the longest period of time between back and forth between your mom's house and your dad's house was about 2 months. That's a couple weeks too. Is that what you're saying?
I was there more than 2 months.
You were never there more than 2 months?
I was there more than 2 months.
Consistently. Okay, so 4 months?
I don't know.
Okay.
At this time, I'm going to object to asking you.
Overruled.
question is you don't know?
No.
Okay. When you were at your dad's house for all of these months, would your mom come to your dad's house to visit you?
Yeah.
How often would she come every weekend to visit you?
No.
Would she come visit you once per month, maybe at your dad's house?
I'm not sure if she just comes sometimes.
Like how often is sometimes? Twice per month?
I don't know if she comes sometimes.
Would she call you before she would come?
No.
Because she would just pop up at your dad's house to come visit you?
Yeah.
And was she welcome to come into your dad's home?
No.
So when she would come visit you, you would walk out and go greet her?
Yeah.
And how would you know that she was there?
She was parked in front of the house.
But how, if somebody's parked outside your house, so did she open the door or not?
No, she was outside.
So she would pop up at your dad's house, she wouldn't call, and you could just see her out of the window?
I mean, I was always outside.
So you were always outside, and she would just roll by, and that's how you would see her?
Yeah, and sometimes when my brothers were there.
And sometimes when your brothers were where, already at your dad's house?
Yeah, because they used to come sometimes on the weekend.
Okay, and maybe they would be outside playing and say, oh, mom pulled up?
Yeah.
But you said that wasn't something like an every weekend thing when you were at your dad's house, correct?
Yeah.
So she wasn't coming every Friday and Saturday to come see you?
No.
And would you say that it was more than once per month?
Yeah, once a month.
No, more than once per month, not more than one time.
Yeah.
Okay. Was your mom heavily involved in your school activities while you were living with your father?
No.
Did you let her know that you were missing a lot of school?
But I was missing school.
Yes.
She realized that. Yeah.
But you didn't let her know before?
No.
Okay, were you concerned yourself with going to school?
No.
And so your dad would let you just stay home from school?
Yeah.
Or were you skipping school?
No, I used to work at home.
Okay. Now back to, so again, just because I want to make sure that, so the only people that knew were, the only person you told was Jeffrey and Isaiah, and you believe Carla knew. Who else do you believe knew about Karen allegedly prostituting? You don't know of anybody else besides Carla who you actually didn't tell and Karen that she was supposed to be involved, that was aware of the prostitution.
How did my brother answer?
You think I should know? Probably. What'd you say?
Yeah.
So you're not sure if I was knew or not? Now, when we look at the list of people that Cumbia, Samuel, and MF, you said those were all people that your dad knows. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And two of those people, Samuel and Cumbia, these are family members of your father. Is that correct? I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think your dad knew that you were being prostituted?
I don't know.
But you said you were giving money, is that correct?
Yeah.
So, would your dad inquire as to where, would he ask you about how you got money to get to him?
Yeah.
So, would you lie to your father about where you received money from?
Yeah.
Where would you tell your father you got money from?
A friend and borrow.
What other lies did you tell him? So you only told him a friend who let you borrow money.
Yeah.
Would he ask what friend?
Yeah.
What friend did you tell him would let you borrow money?
Okay.
What was the most amount of money you gave your father once?
I'm not sure.
Do you have an estimate, like $20, $100?
I don't know.
What was the most amount of money that you gave Karen?
But it's always gets the money to Karen.
You used to always give all the money to Karen.
Yeah, because she was the one asking for the money.
Okay. So each time that Karen prostituted you, you give the money and give all of it to Karen.
Not all of it. I used to tell me.
Okay. So who told you, well, did you decide how much you kept or did Karen decide how much? You decided how much you kept this money?
Yeah.
And so because you were allowed to decide how much the money, this money from prostituting, you got, who did you think, who kept the majority of it? Since you were deciding, did you give the majority to Karen or did you keep the majority of it?
Well, I would say my dad and Karen, because they used so much fast.
But
The
so
money.
your dad would ask you for money?
Karina would tell me that my dad said if I didn't have borrow money for the cook my cook.
Okay. So then you would give your dad's coke money to Karina, and then you, for his portion, and then you'd also get Karina money. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you did that, who would end up with the majority of it?
Maybe.
So did your dad always go to Karina to ask you for money?
Yeah.
He never asked you directly, hey, man, I got some money.
No.
So what were all the things you're saying that Karen told you she needed money for?
For cocaine.
So Karen said, I need money for cocaine. What else did she tell you she needed money for?
Something like.
For nothing else.
She just said for the borrow. And one time when my dad cooked his head. I had to buy medication.
Okay. So there was nothing else. Karen just said, hey, I need you to give me some of this money that you got from prostituting when I sold you so I can get some cocaine and when your daddy put his hand. There was nothing, no
Well,
other
she
reason.
used to control it.
But you would decide how much she kept.
We told me half. But depends on how much we get, she used to keep half of it.
And you decided she would keep having it.
She told me give me half. I took her half.
Okay. Are you aware of how confusing your statements are right now?
I don't think they're confusing. You're asking me a question and my answer.
Okay, and I appreciate that. But when I ask you, hey, well, who decided who kept the money? And you say you did. And then you turn around and say, well, we have it. And she decided. You understand those are inconsistent statements?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You understand when yesterday you testified, oh, I'm going to get my daddy money. And then today you turn around and say, listen, Karen would ask me, I would give Karen money for my daddy. Do you know how inconsistent that is?
Yeah, because my dad was asking for the money. She used to come to me asking for the money because my dad never asked for the money. She was the one coming to me.
But you recall yesterday talking about how you would directly give your daddy money. You don't remember that? It's okay if you don't recall me, because
I don't think I understand. I gave my dad directly.
and then, would you share the money with your siblings?
Yeah.
And would you just give them money straight out there?
You know, we used to go to 7-Eleven and buy snacks.
What else did you buy?
Snacks, food.
Tell me everything that you remember that you bought for your siblings with the money that you received from Karen prostituting with these people.
Snacks, food, and real coffee.
I'm sorry, you said snacks and food?
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Did you buy clothes?
No, only one time for a uniform.
Only one time you bought clothes for you.
Yeah.
Did you buy shoes?
No.
You never bought any shoes?
No.
You didn't buy your siblings any clothes?
$2,500.
So when you say, you see again, if you need time to think, you can tell me. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but when I asked you, what all did you buy? And I said, tell me everything. You recall that?
Yeah.
And what you said was snacks and food.
Yeah.
And I said anything else. And at that time, it was only snacks and food. You recall that?
Yeah.
And then you told me about a time without a uniform.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I asked you to tell me everything, you can take your time, but I want you to be able to tell me everything you bought with this money that you said you received from care and prostituting you from these men. Okay?
Okay.
So, again, give me that list. So far, I have snacks, food, and uniform. Now you're adding family dollars. Okay, what is about the family dollars that you mentioned?
Clothes.
Okay, but before you said you didn't buy any clothes.
Yeah.
Okay, but now you bought clothes.
Yeah.
Okay. Who did you buy clothes for?
I think it was only for Cardi.
Okay. What else?
No.
Did you buy Jeffrey some shoes?
No.
You never bought Jeffrey shoes with the money that you got from prostituting.
No.
Now, when you and Carol would go on these missions, when she drives you in the car to go to these men's house, did the other family members see you in the house?
One time we were at left. I think that was
Okay. So the other times when she would take you to have sex with Augustine and Columbia, Columbia,
there was one time when I asked and one time when I was nobody saw us.
you said that nobody saw you free?
They saw us.
They saw you. And you're talking about your siblings and your dad? Now, your dad, so you told your dad you got this money from your friend. And that was the only lie you told him in regards to how you got money, right? Okay. But somehow, would he just know that maybe his friend kept giving you money for him to ask for some more money again? You don't know. Now you mentioned Sergio, that's your stepfather, right? But that's who your mom, she's married to him? But you mentioned that he had a suspicion that you were prostituting yourself, is that right? Okay. But did Sergio know Samuel?
No.
Did Sergio know Cumbia?
No.
Did Sergio know MF?
He doesn't know.
So Sergio doesn't know any of them.
No.
You didn't tell Sergio that you were prostituting yourself.
No.
But somehow yesterday you mentioned Sergio had some suspicion that you were probably being prostituted. Is that right? Do you think Jeffrey told you? Do you think that if Jeffrey would have told you that you were being prostituted, that Sergio would have called the authorities to try to protect you?
Stay.
You mentioned yesterday you didn't tell your dad about camp prostituting. Do you recall that? And you said you didn't feel like your dad would believe you. Is that right? From your understanding, is your dad aware of the charges that are pending now against him for prostituting? Yes, he is aware?
Yeah.
And my understanding is, well, when was the last time you talked to your father?
3 days ago.
3 years ago. And before that, when was the last time that you spoke?
3 days ago.
No, before the 3 days.
What day?
No, just like, when did you talk to him before? Like, we know you talked to him 3 days ago, which might, Wednesday, that might have been Sunday, the weekend. Like, before the weekend, when you talked to him, when was the last time?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Have you talked to him in 2025, other than this past weekend? Okay. Do you talk to him consistently?
No.
Okay. About how often do you think you talk to him this year?
Well, it started arguing once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
How long has that been going on?
Since last month.
And y'all have a pretty good relationship? I mean, when y'all talk, y'all are pretty good with each other, no problem?
Sometimes.
Have you seen your dad at the courthouse since you've been here? Do you know where your father is?
He's out of town.
Where out of town?
I don't know.
You don't know or you don't want to tell the court?
I don't know.
How long have you been aware that he's out of town?
Couple months.
For a couple of months. And how did you become aware that your dad was out of town?
He told me he was out of town.
When did he tell you where he was going?
He told me that he was going to San Diego, but he went to another job at the time, and I don't know where he went.
Oh, so he went out, so he got in town for work?
Yes.
And is that San Diego, California?
Yes.
So you did about your dad. I'm sorry to repeat. You said he didn't know you were prostituting yourself. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. However, you would give him money.
Yes.
Okay. He's aware of this case, correct?
Yes.
And you feel like he doesn't believe you about what's going on. Is that correct?
Yes.
When the first adult you told me, you were in the United States, your father did, I guess both of you. Did he call the police for you?
No.
Are you aware of anybody else who told you?
I don't know.
You did a forensic interview with CPS involved in these allegations of criminal prostitution.
Mm.
And again, that's in the summer, so June of 2021.
I don't know anything.
Okay. You don't know that part, but you just know that you were pregnant at the time. Do you recall was it being a man that interviewed you?
Yeah.
And you recall talking to him for about 2 hours?
Really? No.
You recall telling him that in regard to the money that you received prostitution, they eventually ended up keeping all of the money? Okay. Do you remember talking to him about getting high before you perform sexual acts? Okay, do you remember talking to him about you, rolling all of your blunts in the car and having a lot of blunts? You remember talking about that? You were telling him about how you got your blunts for free when you actually supplied them? And you, when you're talking about marijuana, you use the word blunts. There's something wrong with this, is that right? Okay. Do you recall talking to him about how your stepmom and your dad didn't really like you smoking marijuana? Or blunts, as you call it? Sure. The forensic interviewer who interviewed you on June 21st, 2021, do you recall, well, first is that you recall talking to him about how you got your weed?
I don't remember how I told him, but I remember talking about it.
You said you don't remember how you told him, but you remember talking about it? Okay. But since you don't remember, would it be consistent with you telling him that you rolled your blunts, you had a whole bunch of blunts, and you got your blunts for free? Does this sound about accurate?
I don't remember.
Would that be accurate to the circumstances as far as how you got your weed? You would have for free? Did you recall talking to him about whether you laced your weed or not? You know what I mean? When I say laced your weed, putting something in. You recall telling him you didn't put anything in it like, you said something in crack. I didn't put some crack in it, but I will put a little something to make it strong. You ever put any other substances in it? And then when you asked you, did your stepmom and your dad ever get you do, you said, oh, no, they don't like me smoking. If you watch the video of yourself, you think that will help you? Okay, then you be able to answer the question a little bit better.
Ma'am, redirect.
Mulder, I want to go back to the portion of defense counsel's questions in regards to the time frame in which you first started smoking versus when you first started drinking. Do you remember the line of questioning? There was a point during that time where you had asked if you could, first I want to go to the point where the line of questioning happened. It was during that time I believe you had asked if you could explain. And so what was it that you wanted to explain and share with us? Yes. Okay. How do you know? I'm going to say you guys using your friends here, but it's and so now let's go let's move on to the portion, the line of questioning that you remember about when you started smoking versus when you started. Can you clarify when you first started smoking and what you
I was 12, and I started smoking
and your cousins on which side of it?
my mom.
And then what about in regards to when you first started smoking?
I was at 13.
Okay, and how do you remember that? When was the first time you started? And was it at his house? Um, did your mom approve of you smoking and drinking? Would she allow that in her household? I want to go to the line of questioning. You had said on Haas that Isaiah, do you also refer to him as Isaiah?
Yes.
Okay. So in regards to Isaiah, you said he was the first adult that you told. How old was Isaiah when you told?
15.
15. So why do you consider him an adult?
He was the first person that I told after the birth.
So is he, what age were you when you did?
15.
15 as well. So you were both of you still in school?
Yeah.
What grade were you?
High school.
So do you understand that an adult under the law is someone who's 13
Now I do.
Okay. So but just to confirm, he was 15 when you. There's a line of questioning where defense counsel asked you everybody that you told about this, and I think you mentioned your brother Jeffrey, you mentioned maybe it was probable Isaiah, maybe, I don't know his name, or Isaac, sorry. And then we obviously know that you were interviewed, so that person had information. Do you know a person by the name of Ashley Hughes?
Yeah, that's my brother.
And how is she your cousin? What side of it?
My mom.
Okay. Does she have any knowledge about it?
Yeah.
Did you also tell her what happened?
Yeah.
What did you tell her?
About this patient.
Specifically, what do you recall telling her about this?
About what had happened with the student and the one.
And do you recall where you were when you told Ashley? Was Ashley living with you in your mom at the time?
Yeah.
Do you recall how old Ashley would have been around the time you told her?
I think I'm not sure.
Do you remember what her demeanor was like when you told her?
She was in shock, and she had told me to tell my mom, like, for me to talk to my mom. But I didn't know how it was scared.
Why were you scared to tell her?
Um,
Was anybody else around when that conversation was happening?
no.
Do you recall if you went into the same details that you went in with in front of this jury yesterday? And I think you mentioned obviously and that's some law, but did you go into the details that you went into with us yesterday?
Yeah.
Dumb question, but are your initials MP?
Yeah.
And when all of this was going on, were you under the age of 18? So, defense counsel went into and asked you, do you feel like Dad didn't believe you about what was going on? Going back to when all of this first came out, do you recall him asking you to drop the charges against him? Tell us about that.
When I think about, he was mad about it, and he had told me to stop lying about it, and he didn't believe me, and to take the charges off her.
Do you still think that he doesn't believe you?
Yes.
Why do you feel like that?
He told me.
Has he continued throughout this process to pressure you not to testify?
Yeah. He called me yesterday.
Did you get a chance to speak with him?
Yeah. No, I didn't answer.
Why didn't you answer?
Because he was really mad at me because I came yesterday to court.
On cross-examination, there was a lot of questions about specific details, about everything that you bought with the money that you were given after having sex with these men. Do you remember everything that you bought with that money? Every single item? And at the time, you were 14, and today you're 19. So that's about a 5-year span. Okay, there's a few more things I want to cover with you. I'm going to close this one.
You may.
Now, Marvin, I'm showing you what is marked as States Exhibit 17. Does this look familiar to you? Okay. Now, is this similar? Does this contain your date of birth as well as the age of you would have been? But in addition to that, there's a blank box. And do you feel like this would aid in your testimony to help the jury understand? Your Honor, at this time, the state wishes to offer States Exhibit 17 for demonstrative purposes.
I don't have any objection to it.
All right. That's the
I just call it age chart with box.
age chart. States Exhibit 17 is admitted for demonstrative purposes only.
Now, on cross-examination, we talked a lot about kind of your schooling and tried to narrow down some time frames. So I want to see if we can help clarify a few things. So let's start backwards. Did you just recently graduate? So in this so you graduated this year in 2025, is that right? So springtime of your senior year was in 2025. And so the fall part of your senior year would begin in around August of 2024. Okay. So during this time, you would have been, when you turned 19 in October, would you have been in your senior year? Or 12th grade? Okay. Prior to your senior year, did you complete your junior? And so, in regards to your junior year, would you have started your junior year in the fall of 2022, and then you would have completed your junior year in the spring of 2023?
Mm-hmm.
And would you have been 18 at the time?
Mm-hmm.
And is junior year the same as 11th grade?
Mm-hmm.
And then, were you 17 in your sophomore year?
Mm-hmm.
And is sophomore year the same as 10th grade?
Mm-hmm.
And then, would you have been 16 during your 9th grade year?
Mm-hmm.
And is that also known as freshman?
Mm-hmm.
Now, on cross-examination, defense counsel had asked you, when the last time you, excuse me, you saw Martin, your father, and I believe your response to her question was when you were 15 and a half.
Mhm.
So you turned 15 October 15th of 2020. Is that fair? And so 6 months from October would have been about April of 2021. Okay. So it's in this time frame where you were 15 and a half, would have been April of 2021. Does that sound about right in the last time you would have seen Martin, your father? That you saw him when you were 15 and a half?
I believe so. Yeah.
Now let's go up to 14. You've testified on direct and on cross, and you've let the jury know it was around the age of 14 when all of this was done. And going back to 15, what grade were you in?
Freshman.
Freshman? So if you have here that you were 16, you're starting off your freshman year. Because freshman year school starts in the fall. Your school start in fall time? Like in August, is that when school normally starts for you? Okay. So, how old would you have been when you started with 8th grade? If you're looking at this chart here, so what grade would you have been in before 9th grade? 8th grade. Okay, so you were in 9th grade when you were 16. How old would you have been? And some schools are different. Was your 8th grade school was that a part of your middle school, or was that part of your high school? Middle school? Okay. And so, do you remember how many grades your middle school was? Was it 6th through 8th or 5th through 8th? Okay. And so, would you have been 14 in the 7th grade?
Yeah.
and you would have been in middle school. Is that,
Yes.
okay, and then going on to when you were 13, you mentioned that your middle school goes from 5th grade to 6th grade. Would you have been 13 in 6th grade? Would you have turned 13 in 6th grade?
Yeah.
And you'd still be in middle school? And to clarify, we've heard a lot about you moving around. Did you bounce around a lot between 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that time frame? And somewhere in that time frame, were you at Trinity Dixon? Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to offer State's Exhibit 17 for all purposes carried.
No, I have no objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit 17 is admitted for all purposes at this time.
Permission to republish State's Exhibit 10.
You may.
I'm showing you what has already been admitted as State's Exhibit 10. Just to kind of clarify, on your testimony, a lot of times you said the kids. And so just to make sure that the jury understands which kids were around during this time, let's start from this left side of the page. Now we have here your sister Viviana, your brother Alicio, and your brother Sergio Jr. Did they ever go over to Martin and Karen? Why is that? And then we've heard testimony about Isaac, your brother Isaac, and your brother Jeffrey. How often would they go over to your dad and some weekends? Let's start towards the bottom here of State's Exhibit 10. Janelle Priona, who is she? Okay. And did she live with Karina and Martin at the time that we're discussing here? Did she ever come and visit? How often did you say she came? And sometimes she used to really not come. Okay. But for sure she was not living in the home consistently. Okay. Let's move on to then Carla. Was Carla living with Martin and Karen at the time all of this was going on with Karen? Okay. What about Carlos? He was also living. What about Gonzaga? And then what about Angelina? Was she living in the home? And then Leilani? Okay. And then what about Philip? During the time that all of this is going on with Karen, was he living in the home? Permission to approach the witnesses.
You may.
Okay. I am showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this? Okay, and what is this that we're looking at? And is that the house on 1655 Huxville? And do you remember what city that was in? And is it a fair and accurate depiction of that home? Now, I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 18. Do you recognize it?
Mhm.
And is it a chart with all of the kids that you just discussed, that you knew, your step siblings as well as your bio siblings, that would have been around and your adult siblings, and how would they have been?
Mhm.
Okay. And does that fairly accurately represent those ages?
Mhm.
Well, at this time, state moves to offer States Exhibit 6 as well as States Exhibit 18 to the defense council.
I'm just saying.
No, I know. So,
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
All right. States Exhibit 6 and 18 are admitted for all purposes.
thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Permission to call this round.
You may.
And so here in States Exhibit 18, and it's pretty hard to see, but we're looking at how old all of your siblings and step siblings would have been during certain years. Is that accurate? Uh, Marvin, do you know how, do you know when your dad's birthday is?
November and November.
Do you know what year he was born? Or how old he is?
What do you think?
42. Today. When you say he's 42, is that today? So 5 years ago, when this was happening, was track 5. He would have been around 37. Does that sound about right to you? Or in his 30s at least. And how old were you when the defendant compelled you to prostitute yourself?
We're sitting in the house
And do you know, and was the defendant over your age of 18 while all this was going on? Do you know how old she was at the time?
and
26, 27, somewhere in her late 20s. Who passes the child?
Any recross?
Oh, your siblings and your mom, like, I didn't just, I didn't your birthday, right? If you know, if you don't, do you see? I think it's up here too.
And I can bring it to her.
It's cross-examination.
Yes.
This is where I was from. Were you last up here, was she pregnant?
I just saw her once walking out from the store.
I mean, like, I'm sorry. When you stopped living with your dad, was she pregnant?
No.
She wasn't pregnant?
No.
And your testimony is she stopped living with, you stopped living with your dad. I guess now your testimony is around April the 24th. So you're supposed to be 15 and a half.
Yeah, I thought it.
Usually you see on the chart in 2020, they have your 15, 2021, I have your 16. That 15 and a half, which you recall them calculating it around April 2021. So in April of 2021, you think that's about the last time you started with these people, right? Okay. And also at that time, Karen was not pregnant. The last time you lived with your dad, she was pregnant. But you notice that she has a baby named Jerry in July of 2020. So you didn't see Karen when she was pregnant with him.
No.
Okay. And this is a little recap. You said that you told Jerry, how many about this prostitution and prostitution situation? How many times did you tell Jerry?
Only that one time with Anna.
So you only told Jeffrey one time about Karen prostituting. And there was no other time you discussed with Jeffrey prior to the forensic interviews about Karen prostituting. Okay. But your testimony is you told Jeffrey when you were in your room at your dad's house. You're not telling me that earlier? Did any investigators or detectives like law enforcement police ever talk to this girl Ashley that you're aware of?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you ever tell any police officers that you told Ashley that you were prostituting, that Karen was prostituting?
I think that's what she said.
You think that you told CPS about Ashley? When do you recall telling Ashley about Karen prostituting?
When I was living with Anna.
When you were living with your mom? And where were you and Ashley when you told Ashley that Karen was prostituting?
In my room.
In your room at your mom's house? Do you know if your dad was ever charged or accused for prostitution?
He told me, I don't know.
You don't know? You haven't participated in any process like you're doing with Karen as far as your dad regarding prostitution? I've asked the service now.
Any redirect?
No,
All right.
subject to read.
Yes, I understand. All right. You are free to leave and go wait in the prosecutor waiting room. Please watch your step getting down from the witness stand. Please remember your instructions not to discuss your testimony with any other witnesses. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Mulder.
All right, let's take a 5-minute break.
All right.
Well, I'll take a break. You may be seated. All right. How are you? I'm doing great. Are you in child abuse now? Awesome. I remember just a few years ago, you're like, I'm going to child abuse. And look at you now.
Is getting ready to head out.
I know he graduated. He's going to Indiana University. Very excited for him for that. My alma mater.
He made the decision all on his own.
He did. And a few of his classmates and friends are going too. So that'll be really fun for him.
When did they move in?
I got a hotel room for all of the possible dates. And I'm going to shrink it down. Change my reservation. We're heading up for orientation next week. I know. I know. So exciting. Yes. Hello. Yes. Tell me your name again. Yes, Jack. It's good. Great to see you. Where are you in school? Oh, fantastic. Well, wonderful. Yes. Yes, a lot of cornfields up there.
Yeah, and we're right in the middle of like the prairie. Nothing around us. So
How do you like winter?
I don't
I know, it's terrible.
it's the last.
Well, here, come closer, Jack. Come on. Yes.
Yeah, it's like the first winter was probably the day that was like -40, -50, like feels like, which was terrible. And then this year,
Because I grew up in Illinois, so believe me.
Yeah, we're in Illinois.
Edwardsville, right outside of St. Louis.
Okay, it's like
No.
South Illinois.
Yeah, Southern Illinois, right
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
of St. Louis, where the Mississippi River separates, well,
Missouri. And,
Iowa
yeah,
and Illinois, Iowa, and then Missouri.
yeah.
And then Illinois is here.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just literally right across the river.
My best friend grew up from Galena.
Okay.
Yeah, way up.
Yes.
Illinois.
Okay, so Rhett's grandmother
Okay.
went to Drake.
Yeah.
Or, well, yes, went to Drake. So did, and that's where his grandpa Doug met Ellen,
Yeah.
grandma. So they were at Drake in Iowa.
I think it's wonderful. David.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And then both their parents with Iowa.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Are they from there?
My mom is
Okay.
Teresa Peters.
Okay.
She's a legal aid, and then
Mhm.
I'm sure you probably agree.
I've just been doing criminal, so
Yeah. He doesn't know everything at this courthouse.
yes. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
hmm
he went to Iowa to live up there. And then
Wonderful.
he likes to do it, but he came down here to Texas. But
Yes.
yeah, so it's just been playing football.
Oh,
and
yes.
Track.
Oh, are you playing football for
Yeah.
them?
So
Oh,
playing
that's
football and running
great.
track
What
as well.
position are you?
Receiver.
Wow,
It's
good
really
for
keeps me
you.
busy.
Yes, I bet you are
There's
busy.
nothing else to do in Iowa, so I mean.
What is your major?
Policy analysis. So just like basically
Excellent.
pre-law.
Yes,
Yeah, I love
excellent.
it. It's great. I'm taking comm law, which is like the most popular
Yeah.
class
Mhm.
with Professor Hansen. He went to like Harvard. He's my advisor too. He's just the best. I'm really excited for that. And then like policy analysis on top of that as well. So like doubling down.
That's great.
And they make us take like it's like you can't just do poli sci for like your degree. They make you take like other classes, like philosophy of art, and then like we have an American study firm that does like trans history, and then like all sorts of like marginalized groups in America, like they have that kind of history. So they're
That's
taking
great.
trans history as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Sounds like you're having a great
Yes, ma'am.
experience. So you're playing football
Running track.
and running
Yeah,
track.
I do both. So
Wow.
year round,
What do you do in track?
I do 100 meters and long jump as well. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I
Just
love
being
it.
a student athlete keeps you
Yeah.
busy.
If I went to big school, like Lord knows what I would be up to. I like
Yeah.
need that kind of like overbearing figure of like, hey, you didn't turn this in, Jack. What's up? Like, you know, come meet me and tell me why. Stuff like that, which I love it.
Well,
And
that's
I was very
great.
excited for Indiana. So I saw
Yes,
that he
yes. And that's
finally
my alma mater. So he's going to have so much fun. He's going to get a great education.
Yeah.
IU is fantastic. And a lot of the boys are
a
going.
little bit, maybe.
We went up for a second visit. That's the first college we went and visited.
Okay.
And then that was, he got into Tulane and Ohio State.
Yeah.
And he decided he wanted to go big. And SMU, of
Yeah.
course. And he settled on in University of Arizona. Didn't want to be in any cold weather, but
Somehow ended up in Bloomington.
I know he'll get enough of it.
Yeah.
But you're farther north than he will
I
be.
think so.
Yeah, you are.
Plus, yeah.
So, but the plain states are cold up there.
There's
The lake
nothing that locks
effect.
them
I know
in,
nothing.
So you wear your coat and you're like, okay, I'm gonna be fine, and then just get hit in the chest with a gust of
I
wind.
know.
It's like,
And isn't it funny, like when you blink your eyes and you can feel how cold your eyeballs are?
yes. Sometimes like, so we have like 6 ambulance for football during like November, December.
Oh yeah.
So you'll come out like from the shower, and I've had like my eyelashes frost
Yep.
together, and then I'll be eating breakfast and I'll like
Yeah.
start dripping down my face, which is horrible. But my mom did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like she didn't go to Greenville, but her sister did, and she applied too. And so she kind of like did the you're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
apply it. Even though I did it begrudgingly, but
Yeah.
I've loved everything.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So who are you interning with now?
CCC4.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, your old
That's my old court. So Dominique Torres Williams.
She's lovely.
She
And
is
then Ashley's,
just lovely.
Ashley's great.
Yes.
I've learned so much from her, and Gabrielle as well. And then we have a new third. She's a post-bar.
Okay.
When you were in CC4, she's a post-bar. It's
Oh, I've
Brianna.
had a lot of. I'm in my 10th year of being a judge. So
Yeah.
a lot of effort. But Jack, I'm so glad you stepped up and said hello, and I'm glad that you're watching and everything and getting the experience.
I've been trying to watch like kind of a more painful topic trials, if that makes sense, just to see like, because my dad kind of was like, if you really want to do something like this, you're gonna have to see like people or something.
Yeah.
And not,
Well, your dad is just a doll, so have always.
Fun down here.
I know he's such a
social.
Yes, he's very social.
Yeah.
And that makes him a great trial lawyer.
Oh yeah, I've yet to really see him in trial.
Yeah.
I think he probably was this way. I've seen him do it, stuff like that. But like David Burrows is probably like, because I worked with him last summer. He's the
wonderful.
one. Yeah, he's one that I really saw.
Yeah, David is
great.
Oh, and he's like butter. I mean, he's just smooth.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't get loud. He doesn't get mean. But it's like you're getting shanked in the prison shower. You never saw it coming.
No. He's even keeled the whole time. No emotion whatsoever. Just full.
But you know he's making points.
Oh, yeah.
He's artful. He's like, he doesn't go in with a shotgun.
No.
He goes in with a rapier.
Exactly. There's every comment that he makes is like calculated
And deliberate. Yes. Yes.
I think he's strictly DWI.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that's great. That is his specialty. And as it should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're retainer for DWI. For sure.
Are you going to be here the whole summer?
I don't think I'm sorry. I think my last day's at 18.
Okay.
I applied to go up to Collin County.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, please be sure to come by next Monday and Tuesday. I'll be here, but we won't be in trial. So come and see me and we can talk. Okay?
Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
After Detective Romano, Holly Dawson will be solutions to the as an expert, and then Detective Green is going to testify.
Detective who?
Guys,
Yeah.
Detective Randy is going to testify as a human trafficking expert, so we are going to need a 702, 705.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we're not on the record. Do you want to have a hearing on both of them or just the trafficking one?
Okay.
Okay, no problem. Then we can do that after lunch. I'm meeting my realtor to look at a condo real quick during lunch, but I should be back. So, when it rains, of course. But yeah, hopefully we can do that after lunch. Okay. We're ready for the jury. Thank you. What would you mean? I was like, is that a zip code? Oh, yeah. These teenagers, they're wearing stars on their faces. It's so weird. No. Okay. Yes, it's gone. So that young man is Eric Reed's son, sitting next to my intern, Varun. Varun, did we get you an intern badge? Okay, good. That's okay. No, I wanted to make sure you got it. So you don't have to pay for parking. I can write it on the back of a card and you can hand it to the lady and maybe that'll work. And then she'll yell at you and tell you to remember your badge. Okay, but I'll do that. So Varun just graduated with Brett. So Jack, who is next to him, is Eric Reed's son. You know Eric Reed? Oh, you know Eric Reed.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So y'all know Eric Reed. That's his son. We're ready. We're ready.
All of us.
All right, you may be seated. You have your witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Romano.
Mr. Romano, please come forward. Excuse me, detective. Good morning. If you would please stop and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. If you would be seated. And you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, would you please state your full name and spell it for the record?
Yes. My name is Emmanuel Romano, Emanmuel. Romano, Romano.
And which department are you currently employed with?
I'm currently employed with the City of Dallas Police Department as a sergeant of police assigned to the Northeast Patrol Unit.
So let's back up and kind of start from the beginning of your journey throughout your career as a police officer. Is it fair if I call it DPD? Is it often
That's all. Yeah.
Okay. What do you have to do to become a police officer?
At the time that I hired on, back in 2009, the requirement was an associate's degree, 16 hours of credit, or an equivalent of some military service. I hired on back in 2009. At that time, I went through the basic academy, which was about 1,200 plus hours of training.
And can you just share with me a little bit about what the basic academy training is?
Sure. The basic academy is several months long, normally 7 to 8 months in the Dallas Police Department. During that time, they introduce you to the Texas Penal Code laws, Family Code laws, Transportation Code laws, as well as Code of Criminal Procedure, and among other different laws that entail just within the boundaries of the city of Dallas.
Do you get an opportunity to shadow anybody during basic academy, or is it strictly just in class?
The basic academy is strictly in class during business hours.
Once you complete basic academy, where do you go next?
The next step from there is what they call field training. You're assigned to a senior trainer for a stint of maybe 3 to 6 months. During that time, you rotate between 3 different trainers and 3 different hours of the day, sometimes overnight, sometimes daytime. And during that time, they kind of introduce you more to what you learn in the academy and apply to working in the city.
And I apologize, Sergeant. I'll use your line. How, once you complete field training, what is the next step?
The next step from there is you are in a probationary period that the city of Dallas determines if you're capable of continuing on working as a Texas police officer. From there on, you can move on to different parts of the department, whether it's in patrol or have the ability to take promotional exams to move on to different ranks within the police department.
And we'll get to that. How long were you in patrol this time?
I worked in patrol for several years, from the year 2010 on to 2013 or 14, I believe.
Do you, by chance, remember which groups you were when you were in patrol?
Yes. Most of my patrol career was spent in the southeast part of the city, Pleasant Grove and South Dallas.
And I use the term beat. Can you kind of explain what that means?
Sure. A beat is just a grid area that the police department assigns in the city, so that way we can monitor crime activity as well as keep stats and kind of document anything that happens within that certain grid to those specific kind of crime.
After your time in patrol this first go around, where did your career lead?
Once I had the opportunity to apply for what we call a career enhancement program, where you're allowed to shadow different departments within or divisions within the police department. I had the opportunity to go through the investigative bureau route, so I was able to shadow and be a part of different investigative units such as robbery unit, child abuse unit, child exploitation unit, and then from there I was able to take a promotional test to move up to the next rank in the police department, which is a senior corporal.
Let's backtrack for a second. You said that you applied for this program.
Yes.
How many people get accepted into the program?
Very few. It's open to all police officers in the police department, and they have a large amount of applicants because a lot of people that are young in their career, they want to be able to be exposed to different parts of what actual police department can offer. So it's very few. I believe when I applied, it was for 2 years in length, and during that time, I think maybe 10 or 12 police officers in the police department actually got accepted into the program.
So you mentioned it was 2 years in length, and you talked about some of the divisions that you shadowed. Were there any divisions that stuck out to you or interested you more than others?
Yes.
What division?
The child exploitation unit.
And kind of tell us why that piqued your interest.
During that time that I was involved in that career enhancement program, I was able to meet a certain sergeant who was over that department, and he was well known and well renowned as, and he had a lot of time out of the department. He created what we call now a high-risk victims trafficking unit. So he was one of the very few that actually originated the victim-based approach in regards to any victim under the age of 18 that have been involved in some form of
Once you completed the program, where did your career take you next?
Once I completed the program, I promoted up to the rank of senior corporal. During my time in that rank, which was while I patrolling for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and during that time I was in charge of training new recruits that came out of the academy in the street.
And just, would you mind just kind of briefly going through the various ranks in order from lowest to highest?
Sure. The first rank is a police officer. Second rank is a senior corporal. Third rank is what we call kind of closest to the senior corporal rank, which is a detective. From then forward is a sergeant, then a lieutenant, then a major, and then a chief.
Is there any additional training or tests that you have to take in order to become a senior corporal?
There is a promotional civil service exam that is offered. So you do have to study for it because it's very difficult to, not very difficult, but it can get very difficult to pass. But there is no specific training in order to become a senior corporal.
And did you pass that test? I imagine.
Yes, it was a written test as well as a board assessment.
And then you mentioned after your time during that program, you went back to patrol. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
And then I think you mentioned after your time on patrol, you promoted to detective.
Yes.
Is there any additional training or testing involved in becoming a detective?
Not at the initial transition from senior corporal to detective, but once you become a detective, you have to be trained within the division that you're applying into. So I had the opportunity to work with senior detectives within that specific division in order to continue on working.
And what division did you apply?
Child exploitation.
And did you get into that division?
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall what year you got into that division?
I believe it was middle of 2017.
Are you still in that division today?
No.
How long then were you in, is it okay if I call it the senior unit?
Sure.
How long were you in that unit?
In the unit, I was in there for about a year or so. And then within that unit, they also have kind of like a branch off unit, which is a high-risk victims trafficking unit. I was in that unit for about 4 years.
Is there any other units within that senior unit?
Yes.
Okay, what's the other unit?
So the child exploitation is under the Crimes Against Children's Division, and within the child exploitation unit, there is a high-risk victims and trafficking squad, and then there is also internet crimes against children's team.
Can you briefly explain to the jury what types of cases are investigated in each one of those units?
Yes. So the internet crimes against children investigates mainly online-based sort of investigations, such as possession of child pornography, solicitation of a minor, stuff of that sort, which can also lead to sexual assaults or indecency of child. The high-risk victims and trafficking squad focuses on crimes that occur between stranger and stranger that with prohibited conduct, such as sexual assaults, compelling prostitution, trafficking of persons, and that's pretty much.
When you were assigned to the high-risk, high kind of dangerous trafficking squad, how many, at the time that you were there, about how many detectives were part of that squad?
At the time that I went over to the high-risk victim squad, there was about 4 detectives. At the time that I left the high-risk victim squad, was down to 2.
And were those detectives for all of Dallas County?
Yes,
The city of Dallas?
the whole city of Dallas.
So then those detectives, the 4 and then the 2, were you guys on call 24/7?
Yes, normally how it would work, we would work afternoon hours, but we would cover the whole city of Dallas, and we were on call 24 hours a day during 65 days.
At any given time, from what you can recall, what was your average caseload like in a week or a month or just during your whole tenure in that squad?
While in the high-risk trafficking squad, we averaged around 10 to 12 active investigations. But there was also a lot of other cases that would come in, and it was just referrals or phone calls that we made and stuff like that sort. So over 12.
And you say over 12, is that like during a week, a month, a year?
About a month per detective.
A month per detective. Are you, and as part of being a detective in this unit, do you have continuing education and the training that you go through?
Yes,
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
sure. During my time there, I was able to take classes within the police department that they offered introduction to child protection as well as trafficking cases. But also in my 4 years that I was there, I attended different training regards to interrogations within the police department as well as outside with another organization, as well as other training that was based out of the federal agency down on the East Coast. And also attended many different conferences that were based on investigations of crimes against children and trafficking.
During your time in this unit, did you also attend the conference here in Dallas, Crimes Against Children conference?
Yes, I had attended a conference in Dallas.
Are you familiar with what is meant by a multidisciplinary team?
Yes, I have.
Can you explain what that means to you?
So a multidisciplinary team is where criminal, medical, as well as advocates and other organizations come together in order to find out the best plan for a child that has been victimized.
Does that also include people involved with CPS and forensic interviewers as part of the team?
Yes. Normally, the multidisciplinary team meets at the Dallas Children's Advocacy Center, and on there they have different cases that come in The children that were involved in different types of crimes, as well as some children that had witnessed some types of crimes, maybe robbery or murder or something of that sort. And they come together and collab as to what we do for the services.
Now we talked about as part of a member of the NHTC forensic communicators. Can you explain what a forensic communicator is?
Yes, forensic communicator is actually a part of the most students in the team. They are certified, trained individuals that are able to interview children in order to unbiasedly obtain information as to what they observed, what they witnessed, and what they experienced themselves in regards to being a witness of a crime or being an actual victim.
And do they talk to children up until the age of 17?
Yes.
Was in your time in the CEU unit, were children were all ages of children up to the age of 17 always sent to be forensically examined?
Yes.
Was there ever a point in time where detectives interviewed maybe older children?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that and where the shift to?
Sure. When I first moved over to advocate and justice, it was common practice for the detective to meet with complainants, what they call a victim, in our office and conduct a one-on-one interview with them first. At some point, the department's policy switched over to where we would utilize the forensic interview in order to interview children who were in the website.
So, prior to that change in department policy, what ages of children were detectives in?
Prior to that change, detectives would meet with 14, 15, 16, and 17.
And do you recall when that policy changed? Or what year?
I do not remember the exact time.
That's okay. So before we get into the specifics of your investigation, I kind of want to talk about how these investigations work in general. How are cases assigned within the CEU unit?
So the child protection unit can receive cases from the patrol officer coming across the victim while they're on duty. If there's a call made or during the call, the child makes a statement or an outcry of some sort that leads to a sexual matter, we get with patrol and meet with that child and have that child come to duty. Also, within the police department, we have a vice unit who works with prostitution in the street. They try to work cases in the street to try to find individuals that are involved in prostitution. And during that time, they're conducting these operations in the street. They come across a child that has been involved in some form of prostitution, or they have made some kind of statement saying, "Hey, I'm involved in this." They refer those children over to us, and we also have them. We also receive tips from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. We will send that information over to our unit, as well as CPS referrals when there is an allegation of some sort of sexual assault. We would also refer that to us.
You mentioned that sometimes CPS makes referrals. Are there mandatory reporters in schools or in hospitals that make referrals to CPS that then end up on your desk?
Yes. Those referrals those manual reporters and reported to CPS, and CPS was sent over to me to investigate the crime.
All right. Sergeant, I want to now turn your attention to June of 2021. Were you assigned to investigate a case involving conduct prosecution of Marvin Perez Hernandez by Persephone Karen William Wilkins?
Yes.
Do you recall how that report or how that came into the department's life?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Just before June 16, 2021, we received a phone call to our office receiving where the special investigator with the Department of Federal Services notified the child protection that there was a CPS girl that was called in from the school personnel in regards to those allegations. From there, that case was assigned to the high-risk victims and trafficking unit because of the nature of the allegations, and it was assigned to me to do a follow-up investigation.
And in your unit, are cases just assigned up in
Yes. Normally, the cases are assigned to the next level.
Once you were assigned as the lead detective to investigate this allegation, what was your first step in the investigation?
First step was I got in contact with the Dallas Children's Advocacy Center and it's been honesty nothing.
And through the course of your investigation, did you come to learn her age?
Yes.
Did you come to also learn her date of birth?
Yes.
And when was it?
I'm sorry?
What was her date?
Her date of birth was 10/15 of 2005, and she was 15 at the time.
Now, do you recall when you had set up that forensic interview? Like what date?
Yes. We set up the date for June 21st, 2020.
And did she show up for that forensic interview?
Yes, she did show up for that.
Now, can you kind of explain to the jury where forensic interviews are conducted?
The forensic interviews are conducted inside the Dallas Children's Center in the country. Normally, the child will meet with the forensic interviewer. They will be escorted to a private room where they sit down one-on-one and talk to them in a private area. Where they have the ability to provide video and audio room for detectives or any other person or an advocate or a CPS investigator or CPS worker to sit down and overview it and
So you mentioned that in the room where the interview is conducted, there is a camera that's able to record video and audio of the conversation that's being conveyed. And to your knowledge, was that admissible in court?
yeah.
So you also mentioned that there's a place or a room separate from that room where other members of the MPT team can watch the interview as it's taking place.
Yes.
And so, were you present and did you observe Marvin's forensic interview from the side?
Yes, I was probably in that separate room.
Okay. And do you happen to recall about how long that interview was?
I don't recall the exact length, but it was definitely over an hour.
Do you recall what her demeanor was like during that interview?
She was very calm. She didn't appear to be irritated or alarmed, very open to answer questions from the beginning.
And was she able to describe details about being held in prostitution?
she was able to describe to the best of her ability.
After the forensic interview, who was your suspect in your investigation?
From the forensic interview of Mulder, she apparently had, she mentioned a family member of hers was a suspect. Competitive.
And what was her?
And it was Karen Avalon.
And through the course of your investigation, did you learn the date of birth of the victim?
Yes.
And what is
She was born April 3rd of 19.
So, during the course of your investigation, how old would she have been before?
She would have been 29 years
Which
You may.
Detective, Sergeant, I am showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 19. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what do you recognize this to be?
I recognize that to be Carolina.
Karen?
Sorry, Karen.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of what she would have looked like back in 2021 when you began your investigation? Your Honor, at this time, State needs to offer State's Exhibit 19 to evidence defense counsel for it.
No objection, Karen.
All right, State's Exhibit 19 is admitted for all purposes.
Commissioner Pollard.
You may.
Sergeant Romano, do you see the defendant Karen Villalobos is currently hearing If I am sitting in seat number 1, the court counsel hears in seat number 2, and so on and so forth, what seat number is the defendant sitting?
She would be sitting C.
Your Honor, may the record reflect this witness has identified in the back.
The record will so reflect.
Thank you, Your Honor. So once Marvin was forensically interviewed, what was the next step in your investigation?
The next step of the investigation is to get contact with other family members. And she mentioned Mulder at the time.
And why is it important to talk to other family members?
In this particular case, she had that the suspect who she mentioned and was a family member. So the next step would be to talk to other family members.
And who did you interview next?
The next person I interviewed was just 2 days after the present interview, on the 3rd, with the father of my lead.
And what was his name?
His name was Martin Perez.
And during your interview with Marvin's father, did you gather information that either corroborated or discorroborated the information that Marvin provided in her first?
During when I spoke to one of his, he informed me that
Objection, yes,
Sustained as to hearsay.
So, Detective, you can't go into what anyone else said, But my question is during your interview with Martin, did he provide corroborating information that you were able to corroborate with what you had during Martin's forensic?
Yes.
And did you use the information to further your investigation?
Yes.
Um, During your investigation, did you come to learn about the time frame in which this file was occurred?
Yes.
And what time frame was
Based on the IA's forensic interview, she informed me of a specific date, and during that, 2 years prior before.
that? And when would that be? What?
The year 2019, all the way to the year 2020.
Now, you mentioned that you attempt to interview other members of the family. Did you ever have any of the other kids that were in the household forensically?
Yes.
And do you recall what date those interviews were?
I did.
What date?
The brother of my lady was in June 30th.
What do you recall his name?
Jeffrey Newton.
And I'm sorry, I think I misread it. What was the date?
June 30th was 2020.
Who else?
We also scheduled a forensic interview with other siblings of my lady, Carla Gaona, Carlos Vidal, and Gonzalo Vidal, who were interviewed on July 14th, 2020.
And then I just want to make sure I didn't mishear you. With regards to Jeffrey, can you just tell me when you're practically?
On June 30th, 2020.
And were you present for those friends?
I was present for the interview with Jeffrey Hernandez, and also present for the interview with Carla Gaona.
And then was somebody else in your division present for interviews with the other two
Yes.
children?
July 14th, the interviews were scheduled for the same day, at about the same time. So we were able to be present for the interview. And there was another type of observed.
Was that common to, when there's multiple children that need to be forensically interviewed, is it common to try and conduct those events?
Yes, it's common because that's the only time they were probably able to come.
And so in those situations, do you have other members of your units assist you in watching the other concept in process?
Yes, it has to be protected related to the rules. Yes.
And we understand that you are the lead detective in this case, but is this a team effort in this unit that you work in at this time?
Yes.
Do you rely on your other detectives in your unit to assist? And do you do the same for them when they need to assist in investigating these cases?
Yes.
And then with regards to the information, the additional information provided, Jeffrey's FI, Carlos FI, Gonzalo, and Carlos' FI. Did you also consider all of that information provided to you in the investigation, all the potential leads or anything like that?
Yes.
Um, Sergeant Romano, with these types of, with cases such as compelling prostitution, who are some of the players that are typically? So, when conducting these cases, you have a victim, is that right?
Yes.
What about the person who's compelling the child?
Yes.
And, go ahead, were you going to say something?
No, based on the elements of the methods of compelling prostitution, we would have to have a person.
And are you familiar with the term John?
Yes.
What's a John?
John is a person who is for some kind of suicide.
Okay. And are Johns a part of compelling prostitution in terms of the act itself?
Yes. We would.
Were you provided with information on Johns that were involved in this case?
Yes.
And did you do any investigation into this information?
Yes. The information that was provided during the first interviews.
Okay, can you tell the jury about what you did in terms of that aspect of this investigation?
During the first interviews, my identity and Japanese index, and also probably come up with some in terms of person by the motherfucker. That person was mentioned during these interviews, and there was also a person
Do you remember what that person was?
in Libya.
And so what did you do with that information to try to look into?
Once I received that information, I was able to get more information from my life and other victim in regards to the possible engagement with this person. And I pursued that need based on just how the need was provided by my good identity and also siblings, and see if that person was existing and working.
Now, working in law enforcement, do you all have access to systems that can provide information about certain names and firms, social security information, things like that?
Yes.
At the time of your investigation, what information did you have specific to Mulder?
At the time where I initially heard the name in the forensic interviews, I was able to use an internal field reporting system as well as a report management system in the police department that we could check names and summons. Check the first name of the new game, which came back to it's a big city, so it came out to thousands and thousands of people. Also, we had there's also a system in the Dallas County Sheriff's Office. Then you can also search by alias names. Search the name of motherfucker and you see the other person and everything associated to the real name, and nothing came up from it. Also, with the information that the mom provided, she was able to give me a location, and from that location I was able to meet someone who provided a phone number. That phone number was checked through our internal system, as well as the online screen search. That phone number had that phone number was also contacted to see if anybody else brought up the person on the line, and it was considered.
When you interacted with that person, did you also provide your business card?
Yes. When I went to the apartment, the apartment complex that was provided possibly with apartment numbers, I did get in contact with someone that knew a person by the name of
Did he go by anything else as well?
To that roommate, he also known as
Did you learn how long he had been gone for?
yes. While talking to him, he provided information that they were staying together for some time. During that time, some people did stay with them as well. And he also said that before I made contact in his apartment, he said that we were like 2 months apart.
Did he give any descriptions of the types of people that stayed for a period of time?
Yes. He said that it was a mom and a dad with 4 to 5 children that were there for a short period of time, and he informed me that they had some issues and I couldn't do
And then I think he also mentioned you were later on down the road you were provided maybe a name from the biological mother of the victim.
a name of
Did you ever, during the course of your investigation, did you ever get any information or tips on Hector, Augustine, Samwell, any of those individuals, or Cambria?
during that time, the biological mom provided a name for Hector with the last name of Corona. She said that she didn't know the rest of
And did you, as part of your investigation, do any investigation into what information you had?
Yes, with those names that were provided, I also ran a check through our internal systems just as I did in the UK. And there was no person who had, there was no other identifier that can say it was the person who had it.
And to be clear, you're doing that investigation into these into these Jones 2 years later after your initial investigation, after she outlines and provides additional information.
Well, the investigation on Enrique was, shortly after that was.
Let me rephrase my question. So, is it fair to say that this investigation is happening 2 years post when Rockets were?
It's possible.
Well, your investigation with regards to things that happened in 2019,
2019 and 2020.
2020, and you first get on the case in 2020.
Yes.
Now, are you aware that the biological mother provided an additional name of Samuel to your unit as a potential person that was involved in this case that you're investigating?
I'm aware of it because after I left the unit in 2021, it was only before that was made at me, and there was another detective who was investigating that person.
So, is it fair to say that trafficking cases and common prostitution cases of minors is fluid? It's like fluid investigations where is it uncommon for you to get additional information later on?
It's not uncommon, but that information will only be pursued for criminal investigation that relates to original offense.
And was Samuel Gutierrez ultimately charged with an offense?
Samuel, I believe his last name was Corona, was charged with the offense.
And do you recall what that offense was?
I'm not very familiar with the case itself, but it was in
Was that child Marty?
yeah, she was listed as complaining victim on that specific case.
Are you aware of the address where the defendant and Martine and Marvin at the time were living?
Yes.
What address was
Maybe I already mentioned that is a prospect and the exact address is 16 prospect Avenue.
and what city is that?
That falls within the city house.
And is that the same address?
It is in the city.
And does that fall within Dallas County?
Yes.
So
It does fall within
if I know you mentioned that you are no longer in that division, but people in that division, are we prohibited from investigating and potentially charging any future John should information be provided to your agency that they could look into potentially identify these people?
No. There's been cases that sometimes victims will not disclose information until the money is over. You can new open access
So if you had additional information about honesty, that is something that you could look into and potentially if you felt like you had probable cause bring forth charges against them.
if that specific person is an Augustine, if that person's name is mentioned from the forensic interview provided by the person who was the victim or a credible witness, then that person can proceed. Yes. But if there was other names that were mentioned outside of that, it would be considered a follow-up investigation or reporting the news.
What about if you had information identifying who the was and you had additional information to ID that person? Could you go forward and do an investigation to the person charged against that person?
The child exploitation would be able to do that. They would have to do get those things because the offense cannot be generated by a complaint.
But ultimately,
Yes.
those can be pursued.
Yes.
And there's no statute of limitations on these testimonies.
For prohibited conduct in a sexual manner for proven persons under 18, there is no exception.
And to circle back, can you help explain how you came to be on or about April 18th, 2019?
During the first interview with my identity,
Sorry, let me clarify. April 1st, 2019.
during the first interview with my identity, she mentioned the first incident occurred around coming to summertime that year. She said that she was 15 years old, so she was friendly with me when she was 15, and she was born 10, 15. So that's what happened before that time, and around the end of the school, summertime. So, depending on the school that she attends, school can end around the beginning of May, end of May, and so April 1st was around sometime that we can tell But then enemies, she couldn't articulate it.
And your training and experience, is that common or uncommon for kids not to be able to hear and
That is common, especially as so much time has passed. It's very difficult for a child to, depending on their mental capability, they can say exactly when something occurred, when it happens at that time.
So in situations like that, how are you able to ascertain dates?
Based on what the child provides that happened to them at that time, whether it's on a birthday, or on a specific season of the year, or on a specific holiday.
No, we test it.
Cross-examination. Detective, if you could move the base of that microphone closer to you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, Detective Kamani.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
I'm glad to hear that. My name is Mary Clemson. It seems like you have applied for training. So you've always, well, for a while, you've dealt with crime against children.
Yes.
Okay, that's, you would agree with me, that's a very important unit, just trying to keep children safe. Is that right?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. And so, I want to go over some of the work that you've done. You were present, you said, for the first time?
Yes.
And you were there particularly for Martin, is that correct?
Yes.
And that interview, you said it was on June 21st, 2021?
Yes.
I see you really good at memorizing the dates off the top of your head. Are they just in here like that?
No, it's just seeing it on paper and doing it.
Okay. And then there's another thing that you mentioned. You said on June 16th of 2021, you said before that day a call came in. I guess that would start this entire process. Is that right?
June 15th is when I was assigned.
June 15th you were assigned? Okay. And what was that? What was it based off? Why were you assigned a case? Like what happened prior to it?
Normally, the referrals would be called over or sent over to a certain detective within the child protection unit, usually a senior detective, and they would gather all those referrals or any cases that come in. They would have to put it into a system, assign a certain internal number, and then pass it on to the next available detective. Normally, it could take some time depending on when that person is able to actually assign cases.
Okay. But do you know what set of circumstances initiated the beginning of this investigation? In this case?
Yes, it was a phone call that was made to the.
Are you aware of who made that phone call?
There was a special investigator, I believe her name was Saber David.
Meaning how did you get it? Not really the people that are working in your department, but the people that work classified. Does that make sense?
No, it was not.
Okay. So prior to even going through the investigation process, I guess there had to be a complaint from somebody calling you. Is that right? Or reporters?
Yes.
That's what I'm asking. On that part, do you know what initiated all this?
The only thing I know is what was actually on the initial CPS report.
Okay, and do you know how that was CPS?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did that come about?
I later found out from receiving the CPS referral that it was a sibling of nothing related that attended the Trinity Basin Preparatory School, and they had informed the school personnel that something was going on with this whole system.
Okay, do you know the date that you informed the school personnel?
Yes, June 1st, 2021.
Okay, so June 1st, 2021, is when he first informed the personnel, and then around June 15th, 16th, they assigned this case to you.
That's right.
Okay. And then the initial step after that, or one of the steps, I guess, is to have the forensic interview with Mark.
Yes.
Okay. And so then you mentioned the next step after that was to talk to family members?
Yes.
And so one of the people that you talked to, you said was her father,
Yes, her biological father.
her biological father. And do you recall his name?
His name is Martin Perez.
Okay. And so you said that, so he provided a statement, is that correct?
Not a, you mean a statement, a written statement, or just a,
Let me just rephrase it. Who talked to Mark?
I did.
You talked to Mark.
Yes.
Okay. And then, is this a voluntary conversation that got on?
When we first sat down, I introduced random rights to Mike, but he voluntarily came down to my rights.
Okay, so in those Miranda rights, you say anything that you say can and will be used against you. Is that right?
There's a part of the Miranda rights that goes into
What's the entire Miranda right?
I can't recall off the top of my head the full Miranda rights.
That's okay. But you say if there's anything that you say can and will be used against you, what you say is a part of that.
You can't.
And that was read to Martin by you.
Yes.
Okay. And so then you told this court that what Martin said corroborated what Marvin, his daughter, said. Is that right?
There's some parts of it.
Okay. So you said certain parts corroborate.
Yes.
Okay. So did he corroborate her saying that she was prostitute?
No, he did not corroborate.
Did he corroborate her saying that Karen prostituted her?
No, he did not corroborate that.
Did he corroborate her saying that she got money from men for sex?
There was a mention of money by him seeing, but there was no specific part.
So is that the corroboration that he saw money that you referred to as a corroboration of Martin's statement?
The corroboration is that when he was out of the home, and then when he returned home, he did see the money that he was some money that came from unknown places.
Okay. So there was in regards to the aspect of prostitution, there was no corroboration.
Not to that specific word.
Okay. Are any form there any exchange of sex and money?
Like I said, he was out of the home, and all he observed was the money aspect.
So when you say corroborate to the jury, you mean you said, oh yeah, I saw my daughter with money.
And that's what I meant by certain.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify so they wouldn't get mixed up and believe that you were saying, oh, he was corroborating Martin's accusation of being prostitute. Do you understand?
I do understand.
Okay. So, you also talked to Jeffrey, is that correct?
I
Oh,
didn't
I'm
talk
sorry,
to
you
Jeff.
didn't talk to Jeffrey, but you were present to hear.
Yes, I observed his president.
Okay, in the first few minutes, you have said pretty difficult between Jeffrey and the interviewer. Is that fair to say?
You say that again?
Jeffrey didn't seem like he wanted to be there. Is that fair to say?
Not from what I observed.
From the initial part of it, where the interviewer kept asking him to basically explain why he was there. You recall that part?
I don't recall specifically that part.
When was the last time you watched that interview?
Several years.
Several years ago. So that could be a reason why you don't recall that part.
Yes.
Okay. The next person is Miss Parker. You were there present for that interview?
Yes.
Okay, and then you mentioned the other two children, but those two children were pretty young, is that right?
They were younger than the other two.
But how old were they? Probably around 5 or something?
They were definitely in St. Louis.
Okay. And so you said you were present for college interview?
Yes.
Okay. And so, you were responsible for getting the arrest warrant affidavit together, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so the statements that you made in the arrest warrant affidavit, who did you give that to?
The statement?
Like the statements that you do an affidavit for an arrest warrant, is that right?
Yes.
And so the purpose of that is so that a magistrate or a judge would sign a document so that you'd be able to arrest whoever the suspect is. Is that fair?
Yes, that's
Okay. And in your affidavit for arrest warrant, you use part of Carla's statement. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Now, Carla, on the other hand, actually told you they didn't support Marvin's statement that she was being prostituted, that Marvin was being prostituted by her mother. Would you agree?
There were certain statements on there that gave Carla
There was, if you recall the interview, Carla being specifically asked if her mother, or if she knew about her mother prostituted Marvin. You recall that?
certain parts of it.
Okay. And she actually, and she provided responses to that, is that correct?
She did.
And she also clarified that her mother was not prostituting Marvin. Very clearly. Do you recall that?
There was information on there that she said that there was some form of transport that she observed during that time.
And when she clarified whether her mom knew about anything going on with Marvin getting money for sex, she clarified her mother did not know anything about Marvin getting money for sex. Isn't that correct?
I do not recall this.
Okay. Now, when was the last time you watched that movie?
The same. I said,
Now, the other thing you said is after you were able to get this statement from Marvin, the next step would be, well, y'all started looking at suspects.
yes.
How many suspects did you have?
At the time when the first interview occurred with Martina Ellie, there was one primary suspect.
Okay, how many people from that Marvin had mentioned during that interview? How many people committed the crime?
Based on the information that Martina Ellie mentioned,
Yes.
there's transport, there's exchange of money.
Was transport, the exchange of money, having sex with minors? How many people on it would have committed a crime?
In the level of meeting the elements of an offense, there was the primary suspect for compelling prostitution.
Okay.
There was another individual who was communicating and Augustine. So a total of 3 people committed some form of elements, well, that can meet with elements of offense in the state.
Okay, so these are the 3 people that would have met the elements that you mentioned. So it was Karen and Weekend and August. Is that correct? Okay. So tell me about when you were exposed to August.
Based on the information that we received, there was just the first name, unknown address, and no other forms of identification that we can say that we know who this person is. There was never search at a location for this person.
So you went and searched the person named Motherfucker, but you didn't search the person named Augustine?
Based on the information we had, there was no place to search because we don't know who this person was.
So you're telling me in that interview, Martin didn't tell you that she went to the location of these people's house and had sex with them for money?
There was no exact address that's given.
I'm sorry?
There was no exact address that's given.
So she didn't tell you that Motherfucker and Augustine lived in the same apartment complex?
No.
And so she didn't tell you that she could go exactly to that location because she knows where they live.
There wasn't mention of that.
So she could go back to the location and tell you where these people live, and there was an idea of where to find Augustine and Motherfucker.
The idea was there, but we don't. Common practice for us, we don't take a child to the location of where they were perpetrating or they were a victim of crime. We won't take them there to the location of where they were.
Of course. But you would try to find out where these adults are that have these sexual children, right?
If we had an exact address and a person's full identification.
You can have an exact address for motherfuckers, you said you put his name all in some database to try to find him, right?
Yes, as well as others.
And so, okay, so then you said you went to the apartment complex. You find where this MF person's been living, that motherfucker's sleeping, right?
Yes.
And so whoever answers the door knows something about this person, right?
Yes.
What was the full name that they gave you for him?
Just maybe.
So they didn't know his entire name either?
No.
What was this person's relationship to you?
They at some point had family members that worked together.
You said what?
They had family members that worked together.
Tell me about going to talk to the family members. Since they have family members that work together, right?
Yes.
So, like, this person who told you about MF and MF's family work together?
No.
Okay,
Motherfucker
yes.
worked with his roots. And he knew from, I guess, their past work experience together, and that's how he knew. And that's how they were experiencing it.
So to make sure I understand that, whoever you talk, do you have a name for the person you talk to?
His name was first name Damon. I don't recall.
Okay, so James' roommate or family member worked with motherfuckers, is that what it is?
From what he told me, it sounded like they knew each other from past work experience with something. He wasn't specific if it was his family or motherfuckers.
But Jaden knew somebody else that is that right? Because what you're saying is a little bit confusing.
He didn't provide that information.
Did you ask for the information? If he said, oh yeah, I knew somebody who worked with motherfuckers,
I asked him how can I find him, or if he knew anybody that would know him, and he said no.
okay, did you knock on another neighbor's door?
Uh,
So after that, that's when your investigation for finding motherfucker who had sex with this young girl ended?
It went on further with the information he provided for a phone number, and try to see if that phone number does come back to a person.
And then what happened next? Where was more?
At that point, we exhausted our needs to find him.
The neighbors wouldn't be able to leave to find the child molester?
If the person that he knew in that apartment was the lead, and that's what we would contact that person.
Well, how did you tell me how you found that person again?
We got that information from the biological mother of my DNA.
Also, Laura. So Laura said this is the person in this apartment complex that made no money.
She said that that's what he possibly did.
So she didn't know the person Jamie? Or she did know the person Jamie? Like, did she?
It appeared that she didn't know the person.
But she gave you Jamie's information for you to go directly to Jamie?
No, she gave an apartment complex.
Did she give you an apartment unit?
She gave me more than one. So I gave her more than one.
And who was at the other unit?
There was no answer.
What was the explanation of why it was those two particular units?
I don't know that.
Okay. But he confirmed that motherfucker did used to stay at that apartment.
He confirmed that he was rooming with him.
Oh, he was James was actual roommate with motherfucker?
He was a roommate.
But he didn't know motherfucker's name?
He just knew by keep it and
Did you go to the leasing department and try to get a copy of the lease?
I asked him who the person who was under the lease and who was under Alfonso.
Did you go to the leasing office and try to get a copy of the lease?
At that time when I went to the apartments, it was after business hours, so I did not get to the apartment.
And the next day, did you go back to the leasing office to try to find motherfuckers who now you confirmed this and this?
Not the next day.
And then you know next.
Shortly after that, I left the child protection unit, so I did not go back to my apartment.
Who gave you the phone number for the motherfucker?
The roommate.
So tell me what I want to do so Lord didn't know anything about how to find, how do you pronounce the name? On the state.
She never mentioned any content.
But the mother just mentioned Lord, just mentioned mother.
Yes.
So the Lord knew about mother.
She knew about it.
Council, if you could mark your spot. We are going to break for lunch just a few minutes early. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, according to my time, that clock is fast. It is 12:20 p.m. We will break for lunch. I expect you back in the jury room no later than 1:30 p.m. Please remember your instructions not to discuss any testimony that you've heard today, and certainly do not do any independent research on Google or Bing or anything else. All right, we are at recess till 1:30.
All rise.